Alex GolEsh is slowly filling up his staff, and there's a few that I think could be absolute standout.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell, Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us on today's edition of the show. How can we quantify the success and failures of this first full month of Alex GolEsh? We'll discuss that, as well as let's set a few portal expectations. What do we want to achieve early next year? But he's slowly putting together his staff, Alex GolEsh is. And I'm going to admit a lot of the names, Darrell, aren't blowing me away. And that might be a good thing. But look, the first one that really stands out to me is who he's keeping on staff. And yes, DJ Durkin's getting a ton of attention, but retaining VonTrell King-Williams to me so far is the win of these assistant coaching hires so far, Darrell. And I think we kind of got to see an instant gratification of it because of what he did at signing day last week.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm also glad you mentioned that some of these hires are under the radar. Maybe it's a different approach because the last two hires, Harsin had Bobo and Derek Mason, and I was over the moon thinking, man, you hit a home run. And then Hugh Freeze brought in some name recognition assistants, some that were head coaches. And, you know, there was still turnover on the staff and it didn't work out. So maybe continuity and familiarity and bringing people, even if they are under the radar, is the way to go. But VonTrell is what I consider a riser, a fast riser. Remember, I think, was it 2 years ago that he got moved from off the field to on the field? And
yes,
he's done a really good, first of all, you can't argue with how much the defensive linemen have come to Auburn and improved. I mean, look at like a guy like Malik Blockton and some of the other guys that I'm trying to remember the Malik Blockton's older brother, as a matter of fact, had a really good year. And we saw him at the Senior Bowl. For some reason, his name's escaping. Marcus Harris, right? Yes, that's his name. So I think that he's done a really good job not only getting guys in the portal and recruiting to the defensive line. They've gotten better. You can't argue that some of these guys have really played well.
Agreed.
Travis, the nose guard. I mean, so he's kudos to him for not only being a good recruiter, but these guys are getting better. They're getting coached up. Yeah,
Malik Blockton, Kieron Crawford, Keldrick, Amaris Williams. I mean, he's got a nice list that's been built up, and he's getting the talent on campus. He's retaining it, right? Amaris Williams is going to be a big part of that, entering the portal, then coming back. You know, he doesn't really get credit for it because it's not a portal addition, but he should have, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you would have gotten Amaris Williams out of the portal last year, we would have been talking about how big that was. So, I think VonTrell is a rising star, 100%, and he could do both. He can recruit at a high level, and he can coach, which is good. I mean, this last staff, Hugh Freeze, I think he hired like recruiters first, then football coaches. And now in this day in age, you need guys who can coach because sure, you've got to recruit. You got to be able to put the effort in. But we all know that Auburn sells itself. And then, the reports of Auburn getting $30 million in NIL to kind of beef up this roster. That's going to help you too. Just compete at the recruiting ranks. Auburn's going to be able to do that. We need guys who can coach and develop. It's been too long, and I think VonTrell is the perfect example of that.
I understand the old cliche about it's not about X's and O's, it's about Jimmy and Joe's, and I just think it's swaying back towards the pendulum is swinging back towards the X's and O's part because, as you mentioned, very, very spot on. NIL does a lot of is a big gauge for recruiting. So that coach that had that dynamic, charismatic personality in the living room, it's not as much in play as it is before. Most colleges, most universities that are in the SEC and that are well known are going to get good players. It's what you do with them when you get them on campus. And I think there are position groups at Auburn that have consistently taken steps backwards in the last couple of years. and some that have emerged. And it's just ironic that it's mostly on the defensive side of the ball that people got better. Linebackers, think about that, Zach. Think about how our linebackers, Auburn's linebackers, Woodyard,
got coached up,
and Atkins, and these people just exploded onto the scene, right? The edges, McLeod got better. Crawford got better. You mentioned Keldrick Falk. He could roll out of bed, but he still got better. And then the defensive backs seem to, when they get here, play really, really well, and seem to safeties, so it's not
this year seems to be a little bit like there's a few asterisks in there for this year when it comes to DB, but as a general big picture takeaway, yes, I agree.
Well, I think when you look at like just to be specific, like to me, like Caleb Harris took a little bit of a step back.
Interesting. Yeah.
But Fagans contributed well as a freshman, and it's hard to be a freshman in the SEC, get on the field and contribute. So that kind of washes itself out. I think
Winters as well
acquitted himself well. I think at times Pleasant did, and we know what Lee and Crawford do. So you're right. It's a mixed bag compared to what Auburn's been able to do the last couple of years. But I think there was enough.
Lee similar to Caleb Harris, like Lee was better as a, previous years than he was this year, but also like that you're not going to throw at Jay Crawford though.
No.
And so I do think just being the second best corner sometimes paints a target on your back. And so I don't know if we were entirely fair to Kay and Lee the entirety of the season, but to your point, does every level of the defense typically get better at Auburn right now? Yes.
Here's the poster child, and you're going to go, wow, you're right. It's going to be a eureka moment. A guy like Elijah Melendez, who comes to Auburn as a freshman and is probably looking, and Diaz to a certain point, but who's looking to get sparing. I remember people talking about he hopes he can get on special teams. Look at what kind of player he became late in the year for Auburn. One of its best
complete linebacker too. I mean, we talked about him being a thumper. No,
yeah,
he got 2 picks down.
The interception. I mean, look, So and then again, Riddick looked to take a step back, and we thought there was going to be more from him as he was emerging as a freshman, and he never really turned that corner yet as a sophomore. But for most examples, linebacker, what a success on how the improvement in that room has been.
Yeah. You've got a name.
I do.
That a new one that does feel a little different than some of the early hires as we have this conversation on Wednesday afternoon. Let's jump into that in just a moment, as well as I want to set some portal expectations. That's coming up right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Aura Frames. Christmas time is here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories. Darrell, we've done this before with our parents and relatives that live out of town. You can give them a frame, and you can kind of put rotating pictures of the kiddos in there. I'm sure if your kiddos gave you that of your grandkids, pictures of your grandkids, you'd absolutely love it.
I have one. Yeah. And I think the greatest part is if no matter where you live, let's say you download some new pictures to your phone and you have that link, you can just send them and they just pop up like a surprise miles away. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. For a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using code COLLEGE at checkout. That is AURAFrames.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for Christmas. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Kia Autosport of Columbus. Highly recommend hopping in your car, taking the very quick drive over to Columbus, Georgia. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area, if you're in the Atlanta area, go see our friends at Kia Autosport Columbus. Right now, you can browse their inventory online at KiaAutosportColumbus.com, or go see them in person. Go see them in person and say, hey, I heard about you guys on Locked on Auburn. That's $500 off, Darrell, any new Kia right there. And also tires for life with any new Kia purchase, which is insane. Kia does that. I don't know how they make money off of that. It's incredible.
Let me say this. Anybody that's got a daughter that's a girl dad, and if they're older and they're driving and they go to college, how peaceful mind is it to know that you can get those tires replaced and not have to worry when they're on the road back and forth that those tires are taken care of. That's huge.
Said.
Yep.
Well said. Well said. KiaAutosportColumbus.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. One of the newer hires, Darrell. Your first impression of him, very, very high.
I love DeMarcus Van Dyke. Announced yesterday that he was coming to the staff to coach corners. He had that same role at Miami, Florida International, and, of course, South Florida. There was a little bit of an issue at Miami. I think there was a demotion there. But remember, he was also like a recruiting coordinator at Miami. And I love when you get an on-field coach that also has a little recruiting coordinator background, because obviously if you do send him into homes and you do want to close deals and you do want somebody, everybody on staff is a recruiter in theory, right? I mean, even if
right. That's what we just talked about. Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But I like that. And I like his background. I liked he played in the league, in the NFL. So DeMarcus Van Dyke, someone who Golish is very familiar with, joins the staff. And I like his pedigree. It'll be interesting to see what he does with a talented group of corners.
Yeah, love the NFL background. I think that's cool as far as the ability to recruit. I could see that being appealing. Look, his first job is going to be crucial. You have to keep these guys on the roster. And you've got to, so, I mean, he's been hired now for a few hours. I hope his first call was to Jay Crawford and to Kayan Lee and to Blake Woodby and to Rashawn Pleasant. And I mean, I know Strader said that, reports have come out that he's leaving. I think you call him too. Like, you got to call all these guys. You've got a majorly important task on your hands. We're about to talk about like setting portal expectations. Auburn's going to lose a lot of guys, like on paper. Do you know how many they lost last year, Darrell?
Was it 13?
No, it was like 23.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a lot. Yeah.
And it was actually more than that, but I'm not counting walk-ons. Kyle and I counted them on the phone earlier, and we got to 23. And so, like, you hear that number, and it sounds like a lot. But I remember we talked so much last year about, like, oh, we did a great job holding on to everybody. It's like, well, we still lost a lot numbers-wise. So some of this depends on who you keep, right? Like, that number could be really high or really low, but if you keep the same amount of guys, like the right guys, and I think several of them are defensive backs. If you keep the right guys, it doesn't matter, really. The turnover doesn't matter as much. And I think Van Dyke has a very, very lofty task ahead of him as far as keeping these corners on the roster.
True. I mean, that's the aspect of it right now that'll show the immediate grading scale of his abilities, of not only from, because he got into the game too late to recruit anybody, obviously, to this team, but portability, the retainability in the portal, who he can retain and then who he replaces. Look, that graphic that came out a couple days ago that showed evaluations for the highest paid NIL college football players in Auburn had a lot of them on there. Some of that was not money well spent. So you have to be very, very shrewd in how you spend that. And it looks like there'll be some room with people moving on and that kind of thing. Van Dyke's going to have to navigate both of those, navigate who he keeps, because he's in a tough situation, or a unique situation, Zach, where you want to keep mostly everybody in that defensive backfield. And that's rare, that a coach comes into a team and you look at that defensive backfield between safeties and corners and go, man, most of these dudes can play, and I want to keep most of them. And so that's going to be job number one.
Yeah. I'm recounting this just because of your response to make sure that I'm right on this. It's over 20. And like, I'm going to go through some of these names. I
probably just stopped counting at 13 because I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so like, we're seeing all these names because we're already at 8, I think, have reported
Yes.
that
Yeah.
they're entering the portal. And I think some of the name, like, I don't know, you tell me, like, is Percy and Horatio a more impactful name than some of these guys that left during the offseason last year? I think you could argue it, but I think they're in the same tier. Like Walker White, J.C. Hart, Sam Jackson, Gage Keys, Laquan Robinson, Terrence Love, Rico Walker, TJ Lindsey, Braden Joyner, Camden Brown, that's 10, Tyler Scott, CJ Johnson, Antonio Kite, Jaden Muskrat. Hold. Percy Lewis, Keontae Scott, Caleb Wooden, Hank Brown, Caleb Burton, Micah Riley Ducker, that's 20. Holden Gerner, Darren Reed, that's 22. So it's like, that's a lot of names. But like, I don't know how many of those guys we really missed. Ironically, Rico Walker, we may have actually missed the most because of position scarcity, right?
Yeah, because Keontae Scott, despite having a Thorpe award-winning type year, where's he going to play in this defensive backfield? That's just a numbers thing. So, yeah, I mean, that's, and then of course, losing that many in the quarterback room. I mean, you think about that. 3 quarterbacks gone.
That's true.
Year. So, yeah, it was, but I don't remember there being any hand wringing out of anybody that left. It wasn't like, oh my God, Auburn can lose.
Now I think we're going to lose more this offseason. I'm going to be very clear on that. And like, is it going to be double digits more? I don't know. But if you hit 30, just think in mind, like, oh my goodness, we've lost 30 guys. Well, we lost 22. I think I just counted 22 last year. It's like, okay. And the discussion then was like how we've done a good job of keeping everyone. It's going to feel different though, because those were 2 windows. This is all going to happen in like a span of 2 weeks.
Yes,
it's going to be an insane month of January. Really just 2 weeks, first half of the month. It's going to be crazy. And so it's going to feel like Armageddon when a lot of guys enter right away. So like expectations wise, I think it's going to be more than 22. Don't you think? We're already at 8.
I do. And it's going to be very different. That it's going to have to be a quicker turnaround for people to not feel like it's Armageddon.
Yeah, there's no spring portal.
Yeah. Meeting this staff better start bringing guys in while you're announcing guys going out to kind of offset the bleeding, to make it seem like it's a lot better than, you know what I'm saying? Like if you lose it's in one fell swoop 16 or 17 and you're not replacing anybody at that time, but you wait a week later or 2 weeks later, because all this is doing is who goes into the portal. You have a while where you can decide where you're going to commit. I think it's just Auburn needs to put more of an urgency on a timetable of getting people to commit sooner when the portal opens, to kind of offset what's going to look really, really bad optic-wise if a bunch of people jump. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are. Now, are they starters? Are they guys that are they the top 10% of the roster? That's what I'm looking at. Do you keep Cam Coleman? Do you keep Eric Singleton? Do you keep Jay Crawford? Do you keep Kayan Lee? Do you keep Xavier Atkins, Amaris Williams? Like those guys, if you lose 2 of those guys, then it's like, there's not many of those guys in the portal.
No, they don't grow on trees. That's for sure. You're not trying to go replace. The portal's there to replenish. It's just so much like free agency now that I can remember a lot of times people saying that X team in the NFL won the offseason, not because they spent a lot on free agents, but because they retained most of theirs. And I think Auburn could be in a similar situation to go out and fill a few holes, plug a few holes. But if you maintain the dudes that you just mentioned, right? If you retain all of them, you have to consider it, and then throw Deuce in there too. You would have to consider that a very successful portal offseason if you retain everybody you're talking about.
Should we throw Deuce on that list? Let's jump into that in just a moment. Right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Darrell, live betting. I mean, we all know that. I mean, how many times have we watched the game where like the first few minutes, it just does not go the way you expect? And it's like, oh, okay. Well, hey, with live betting, you can stay in the action. Thanks to our friends at FanDuel. You can check out like live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up or cool off. And you can even bet, next touchdown score or the drive result or whatever, all in real time. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I go back and forth, full transparency. I go back and forth on Deuce Knight, and is he in that list of guys that you can't replenish in the portal? Because, I mean, it seems like it's the worst kept secret or just a major assumption that there's a solid chance that if Byron Brown does not go pro, there's a solid chance he's going to enter the portal and he and Alex GolEsh will have a reunion at Auburn. And so to me, like when I talk about the list of guys, it's like, all right, are these guys available in the portal? Like there's not another Cam Coleman type impact. I don't think there's another Jay Crawford. If you want to push me on Canley, I'm fine with it. And then, Xavier Chaplin, I originally disagreed with you, and now I'm with you guys on that. He was incredibly impactful, and I think Amaris Williams is up there too. There's not going to be many Amaris Williams in the portal. Deuce, like we have to assume a big reason why he's leaving is if these Byron Brown rumors are true. And so I do think the path to replace him in 2026 is clear. It's the years after that where I have a hard time dealing with him leaving.
Yeah, just because it's not an immediate impact doesn't mean it's still not an urgent retention. So a lot of times we think this ways of in the here and now, in the present. What is it going to look like if Auburn lost XYZ for next year and how you're going to replace them? In Deuce's scenario, it's how does it look in 2027? Because I think it is the worst kept secret. Then Brown is, and as much as I love Deuce Knight and how dynamic he looked, let's remember he's played 1.5 periods of football against a team that got shut out in the playoffs 47-0 by South Dakota, by Mercer. So we got to pump the brakes on that. Although the eyeball test showed me some things from a talent standpoint and a skill set hadn't seen. But Byron Brown is the more established, proven, 3,000 passing yards, 1,000-yard rushing. He would come in, and I get that. The impact is not that of here and now and having to go replace him. It's what do you do in 2027? And so that's why I think I would add him to that list as the must-keeps.
Yeah. I don't know how realistic that is. I don't think Deuce wants to sit again. And Darrell, I'm going to be honest. I don't like.
But where's he going to go and not sit? I guess that's the question I have.
Good question.
This sounds like Deuce slander, and it's not. I love him. Again, I raved about him after that game. I think he's got all the tools to be phenomenal. My point is, if he isn't the starter next year because of bringing Brown in, where is he going to transfer to the SEC or out of the SEC where he'd automatically be bestowed the starting job, be crowned the starting quarterback?
Ole Miss.
Yeah, but I mean, is Simmons still there?
The talk is that Lane's going to try to get his QBs to come with him.
So, look, if he doesn't, then LSU could be a spot. But, I mean, I don't know. Sure. Okay, Ole Miss. So, yeah, I could see that, especially since they were one of the three between Notre Dame, Auburn, and Ole Miss.
Right.
But if Simmons stays and doesn't go to LSU.
Yeah, or what if Simmons stays at Ole Miss and then Trinidad gets his waiver and then he goes with Lane to LSU?
Yeah.
Which is what Auburn people should be cheering for, I think, if I'm being honest with you, as we talk this out in real time.
Yeah, make no mistake, though, you're hurting for the future, not the present. If Deuce Knight was to leave and Brown was to come in, you're not hurting in the quarterback position in 2026. You more than likely upgraded. But what does that look like in 2007? What does it look like if he goes to Ole Miss next year and goes off? Because then the optics of that are terrible. Even if Brown has a great year for Auburn next year, if Deuce goes to Ole Miss and goes off, Brown's leaving and Deuce has another year, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah. So but it is. If I'm Deuce Knight, I have enough confidence in myself to say, I don't want to sit. So why am I conceding that Brown's going to come beat me out? Other than maybe because he was Golish's quarterback, right, at South Florida. I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics to this that make it kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's all going to play out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like that we'll know within a month. I like that.
Yeah, I would go. I mean, again, if you're a competitor, you want to go where you can play. And if someone else is being brought in over the top of you, especially it was that coach's quarterback, you might see the writing on the wall and say, I ain't waiting until 2027. I want to go now.
Right.
And I don't blame kids for that. If you want to play, you want to play. I know the old thing about, oh, well, if you're really that good or you're a competitor, just beat them out. But there's inherent assumptions that come when you go get a quarterback that played for you a year ago.
Yeah, right. And it's a coach that like you didn't commit to.
Exactly.
Doing it.
Yeah.
When you talk to these players, like one thing that I don't think people realize is how important like the relationship is with like position coaches. Like guys who you committed to and guys who you go to battle with and you're in the war rooms every single day with. And then it's like, okay, all of that gets changed overnight. And sometimes they land at the coach that you've got a relationship with lands at a different school that's, equal level or whatever. And you look around, it's like, well, I could just go with him too. Like that's what the guy that I'm battling with is.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And that was telling and should have been the first indication of a red flag when that didn't happen when Harsin was hired.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, because they had a receiver that we wanted.
They had a linebacker too that I was like, oh, he's. And
it's like, why is no one coming with him?
Telling. And I mean, the Liberty situation is different because there wasn't a lot of players other than Salter, the quarterback, who I thought, I
thought there was a chance of that too happening.
But yeah,
I didn't like who came with. There was somebody that came from Liberty.
It was a defensive.
An
edge. It was an edge rusher.
Yeah, I don't think he panned out here, but I do think he came over. But yeah,
that's telling. It's telling when coaches want to jump ship and come with you, and it's telling when players follow.
He's bringing a lot, and to the point where, like, if Auburn has a slow start, whether it's recruiting or in the portal or on the field, the pushback is going to be, did he bring too much South Florida to the SEC? Like that's going to be a thing if it doesn't work.
Except that some of these guys also coached with him, I think, at Tennessee.
Which is kind of why I think, like, okay, great. Yeah, like if Golish didn't have the stint in Tennessee, I think we're questioning a lot of things.
Let's remember, I hate to keep going back to this analogy, but Harsin had a stint at Texas. He was the offensive coordinator at Texas, but it wasn't in the SEC then.
Yeah.
Storied program, but a Big 12 school at the time. So Freeze had plenty of experience in the SEC and tried to go after guys that did as well. And I think you can't argue that the roster, look, to cap this off, for all that we have said and all that we could say about the Freeze era, one of the things that he did accomplish is he made this roster better than he found it.
Yeah.
He did do that, and he said, and in 3 years, this roster was significantly better. Now, didn't do anything with it any more than the first year he came in, but still, at least the roster. And how many times do you see coaches come in and win with other people's players? And in the history of Auburn, it's happened a lot.
That's true. That's true. And that should be encouraging. So, but you got to keep the players. You got to keep the players on the roster. And we won't know if this month has been successful or not with that until the portal window closes next month.
Yep.
So, Darrell, Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
You can follow me on X if you'd like, Dap6410, and then my couple weekly appearances twice a week with you here on Locked on Auburn. Basketball Saturday against Chattanooga. We'll be doing a little live there. And then, of course, the Barncast on Sunday nights.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. If you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.